Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and we're back out here in my hot garage for another First Impressions video. I was able to go to the range today and film content for 2 gun reviews. Really, one's more of a product review, and one is a firearm, so I guess a product review and a range report. But anyway, I was going to talk about something else in tonight's video, but I'm going to divide this one up. So I just have my camera phone out for this portion, and we're going to talk about the first impressions. But I'm going to film immediately after this another Sig P320 video. And I know some people are tired of those. However, I have discovered something very interesting, and no one else has talked about this. We all know about the issues with this gun, the P320. Here's my M17 and all the weird tolerance issues. And a lot of people were saying, hey, because of the loose tolerances, the slide to frame fit, there must be a design flaw or something about the design of the fire control unit which can be removed from the frame that's causing this. Or maybe it's a potentiality. Is that a word? Potentiality? I think it is. But I went to my safe and I got out other guns that have removable fire control groups. A lot of people don't know that Sig wasn't the first gun company to do it. In fact, there was another gun company that you may have heard of that actually sued Sig over this design, and that was Steyr. And I have 2 examples of Steyr pistols. I have a Steyr M9A1, which, if you are not familiar with this gun, it's a really cool gun and was designed by a former employee of Glock when he moved to Steyr. It looks a little bit weird. We got a big kind of rail section out here. The gun shoots great. I think has the best striker-fired trigger on the market. Now, I know a lot of people say CZ, P10C, and all that kind of stuff. No, this gun does. And it's way underrated, and Steyr has a terrible marketing strategy for these guns because they are literally the most underrated guns on the market. They also have a really interesting sighting system. You can see it's like a triangle right there. And they were the first company to come up with a removable fire control unit. Now, these are not as easy to get out as the Sig, but I take off the slide of this gun. I also have a Steyr M9 A2 is what they call it. And this one also has the removable fire control unit. And there's something really interesting about these pistols that the Sig has that this one doesn't, but everyone says is the fault of the Sig. Anyway, I have to make a video on it. But I do want to say that the tolerances on these guns are much tighter. And I can't wait for you to find out what I discovered about these guns. But there's also another pistol, the Beretta APX, and this is the first generation of them. This is one that was very similar to the one that was submitted to compete with the M17 in the military trials. This also has a removable fire control unit. You'll also notice that we don't hear about these uncommanded discharges or negligent discharges with the APX or the M9 or all of the Steyr pistols, which have essentially the same design. So why is that? Well, I do think there is an issue, and this fire control unit has different rails than the M17. But I'm going to save that for the other video. Okay, so I know this is kind of a long intro, and I'll try to get that video out maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow, but I'm going to film it immediately after this. So that's why I got those pistols out. But you guys are here for the first impressions of 2 things. So let me give the caveat I always give. This is not a review. This is the Texas Gun Vault 2, which implies there's a Texas Gun Vault 1, otherwise known as the Texas Gun Vault, and that is where I post all of my range reports and product reviews. It's strictly guns over there, and I have decided to move all of my commentary, news, basic nightly discussions, first impressions to my second channel where all of my biggest fans like to be. So that's why we're here. So do not say this is the worst review you have ever seen, because it's not a review. I literally just got these guns back from the range. I have not reviewed the range footage. I have not written the bullet point scripts for the reviews. I haven't filmed them on my nice camera yet. It's just me on my phone, okay? So this is just telling you what I experienced at the range. The first thing I reviewed was the Sig Sauer. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'll never trust Sig Sauer again. But this is the 22 long rifle slide conversion for the P226. So you can just buy the slide. It comes with a barrel, recoil spring, and a magazine. And it allows you to put it onto a 226 frame. And this is on loan to the channel from my friend Michael. And these are actually really hard to get. They're very much like the old Colt Ace conversions for the 1911 that allowed a 45 to shoot 22 long rifle. And I like the idea of this more than a dedicated 22, because when you actually use this and hold the gun, it feels like a real gun. Sometimes those other companies, like, what is it, German gun something, and Umarex that make the... Anyway, you guys know those companies that make those 22 kind of dedicated pistols. German sports guns, GSG, that's what it is. Those guns feel like toys in a way. I mean, they're made of like metal, but not very good metal. It's almost like pot metal. They're light. They don't have the same trigger pull. It doesn't feel right. But this allows you to actually train with a P226 with the same trigger pull, the same kind of weight and heft of a real 226, but shooting 22 long rifle. So, what did I discover? Well, it's a cool idea. And it's fun. However, the fun stops when you start having malfunctions. I used 4 or 5 different ammunition types at the range, and I used quality ammunition like CCI, standard velocity, CCI mini mags. I used some Arms Corps, kind of like entry-level stuff that's kind of cheap and dirty. I used some Winchester. So I tried a bunch of different things. When this conversion runs well, it's a blast. It is awesome. When you're having problems, it's not as fun because you're constantly having to clear malfunctions, constantly having to clear jams. And because of the nature of the magazine and the slide, when, for example, right now we do have a magazine in, all these guns are cleared for all of you safety Sallies out there. But when the slide comes back, right, it locks open. However, it is not locked open. It is actually caught on the follower. So the magazines do not have the ability to engage the slide stop, and they just come back to this point. So you do know you're empty, you do get that feeling, but if you try to drop the magazine, you really can't. You can strip it out of here and the slide will go home, like that. But when the slide locks open, I found it is much easier to pull the slide back, lock it open, and now drop the magazine. So you kind of have an extra step in there. But you can drop and pull the magazine out, but the slide will go home. And I tried doing that and running the gun both ways at the range. I definitely feel like the magazines need a redesign. I believe many of the issues I was having with this gun, when it came to failures to feed especially, a lot of them would like shoot straight up into the air, like they would miss the feed ramps completely. It was a magazine issue. I also noticed that some of the magazines and the followers do not always come all the way back up, and they need a loading assist on the side. Not because, you know, I have weak hands. It's only because when you're trying to load 12 rounds into this, it's just kind of awkward. It'd be sweet to have like one of those loading assists where I can just pull the follower down and just put rounds in there faster. The magazines need a redesign. And I don't know if there is a way of redesigning them where they would engage the slide lock. That would be sweet if there is. So the manual of arms is a little bit different. When the slide lock's open, a little bit different. And when you're running quality ammunition, and I have 3 magazines for this bad boy, they all kind of exhibited the same thing. Typically, if they were loaded to 10 to 12 rounds, you're probably going to have some failures. Not always, but it's enough that it's annoying. When the magazines are 8 and below, they run like tops until you have the issues that are common with 22 long rifle, in that you have rounds that don't go off. Rimfire sucks, and the cheaper ammunition you have, the more problems you have. Now, I did discover shooting this pistol single action is much more consistent with performance than shooting it double action. So I did a double action test with this gun and this slide conversion where, you know, I would load the gun, slide would go home. Well, actually I have to drop the slide first, then put the magazine in this case, because the follower will lock the slide open. But let's pretend there's one in there. I discovered if I decocked the hammer and shot the gun double action, it doesn't always have enough maybe to set off the primer in the rim. So I found with all ammunition types, shooting double action is not as reliable as single action. It could be the spring weight, I don't know. If this gun slide conversion ran more reliably, it would be amazing. It would be so much fun because it feels like a 226. But it just didn't run well enough for it to be fun. I really felt like I was having to work a lot. And then I would be halfway through a magazine. I'd have to stop, clear a malfunction, all that kind of stuff. So does it work? Well, yeah. Conceptually, it works. The magazines are the weak part. I really feel that's the problem. The feeding, the reliability is this. I'm almost 100% sure. But it's a cool concept, and if you can get one of these to run well, it's a lot of fun. But I'm going to deduct a lot of points because it just doesn't run reliably enough for it, I kind of feel, to be worth it at the range. I mean, if you're there and you got a bunch of these magazines loaded up, it's probably not a big deal. This is not something you would ever carry. It's just a training tool and a plinking range gun. Get it to run more reliably, which 22 long rifle never will, it would be amazing. But as it sits, when it's working, it's awesome. When you got malfunctions, it's not. Okay, so, accuracy on this slide kit, phenomenal. Wow. This is awesome. Accuracy-wise, no issues whatsoever. So there you go. If you've ever used one of these slide conversion kits for a 226 or any of the other SIGs, let me know. But I really got to go in and look at all the range footage and decide how I'm going to approach it. It's going to be a product review and not a range report. And hopefully you guys saw my product review range report on the Dira Arms DY9 slide for the Glock 19. So I'm going to do it in the same style as that. So yeah, reliability is the biggest issue with this system. All right, the other gun that I took to the range is the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Shield Plus, and this is the latest version of this pistol. Has a compensator on the front. It has their new cocking serrations, a little bit different than the older style, but it feels the same in my hand. So how did it shoot? Well, this gun ran 100% reliably, and it was pretty accurate for a subcompact 9mm. So no issues there. It's not a pleasant gun to shoot. Now, I have found that the sweet spot for guns and carry guns are compact size guns. I would classify this as subcompact. Now, there's no hard and fast rule for what's a full-size compact and subcompact. There are some companies that make a compact version of their full-size pistols that are just as big as the full-size pistols of other companies. So there's no real definition of what is what. So I kind of do it on a kind of a pistol by pistol basis. Typically, my standard is the Glock system. A Glock 17, something about that size and length, full-size pistol. So a Glock 22, let's say a Beretta M9, Colt 1911, something like that. A Glock 19 is a compact pistol. So you get the shorter barrel, shorter frame, but it's still enough where I feel like if you have large hands, you have a solid grip on it, you get all your fingers on it. Subcompact, we go to like a Glock 26 where you're gonna have dangling fingers and they're really having to change up the recoil system to handle 9mm and above. So this gun was not as pleasant to shoot. Would it work and be a good carry gun? Would it save your life? Absolutely. From that perspective, it ran great. But from a shootability standpoint, it's not as fun to shoot. It has a relatively thin grip. Now, I got big, beefier hands, and I have found, and if you guys know how physics works, when you have a thinner grip coming back into your palm, you're going to have more energy transferred through that smaller surface area, and it's going to feel like it recoils more. It's totally manageable, but it's not fun, okay? Not fun at all. Then the compensator works really well, but it works so well that it's loud and obnoxious. This is a loud and obnoxious subcompact pistol. And I kind of wish the compensator wasn't there. Now, I have a M&P9 Shield Plus Performance Center. And then, by the way, this is a Performance Center as well. It's an older one where it has the compensator, or the ported barrel. Sorry, it's not a compensator. It has the ports on the side of the barrel, kind of going up like a V, like the Glock C series, like the Glock 19C, 17C, and things. I find those are much more comfortable to shoot and a little bit more effective. But this gun is loud and obnoxious for a subcompact 9mm, and it's because of the porting. I don't think it needs to be there. And you couple that with how it feels in your hands, I would say if you're looking at this gun, try before you buy. Like, go to a range, find if anybody has one of these that you can rent, and try it out. Functionality, 100%. Reliability, with hollow points, all the ball ammunition I used, 100%. Accuracy, pretty good for a subcompact carry gun. It's all there. It feels solid. It feels well built. Trigger is great. It's just not fun. So does that make any sense? It's just like you're shooting it, you're like, eh. I know some people are going to say, Jason, that's a silly complaint because this gun is not designed to be a range gun. And that is a very fair point. But I always say, and maybe it's my own look at my collection, the guns that I carry, the guns that I enjoy shooting. If a gun is not fun to shoot, or it bothers your hands when you shoot them, you are less likely to take it to the range and practice with it. Now, you could force yourself to practice with it, but you don't want to. There are some guns that are just so much fun to shoot, like the P226. You know, we were talking about this one earlier. If this was a 9mm or 357 Sig or the like, now it's a great gun. Awesome gun. It just feels great in your hand. Glock 19 feels great in your hand. And you can put hundreds of rounds through it. This one would fatigue me just because it's annoying. And maybe my hands are just a little bit too big for it. Even when I use the extended magazines, which do allow my pinky to go onto the end of the grip there because they have that extension, it's still suffering from the same issues. So I think this gun is perfect for somebody that maybe likes loud guns, but for me in a self-defense scenario, I think if you had to pull it, your adrenaline is rushing. When you pull this trigger and it's loud and you get a big flash from here and you kind of feel that concussion in your face, it might actually add to maybe the disorientation in a already difficult situation. Does that make any sense? I think it does. And that's where the Glock 19, I think, really shines. Just the standard Glock 19. It just works. And it has everything you need. It fits in your hand. It's fun to shoot. It's accurate. It's the perfect size. Oh, capacity of this thing is also awesome. I mean, with the little tiny magazine, it's 10 rounds. 10 rounds in that little guy right there. But the bigger ones are 15 and 13. I mean, you do get a lot of capacity in this guy. So I would say try before you buy, but quality, off the chart. Trigger, great. Accuracy, great. Reliability, great. It's a great gun. It just doesn't check the fun factor box for me. So there you go. So that's my first impressions on the Smith & Wesson M&P9 Shield Plus Smith & Wesson, the new one with the compensated barrel. and the Sig Sauer P226 22 long rifle slide conversion. So let me know if you have any thoughts on any of these and your experiences with them. Do you understand what I mean by fun and needing a gun to be fun so you take it to the range and shoot it? This gun is almost fun. Almost. It starts to become fun, and then you have reliability issues, and then it's no fun. This gun shoots great, and it's just no fun. But I'm going to give it high marks because it ran so freaking well. For what it's designed to do, I mean, it does everything. But I don't think you're going to enjoy taking it to the range as much. So there you go. So that's all I got for you tonight. I'm going to start work on this Sig P320 video, which some of you may watch, may not watch, but that's why I wanted to separate it. So if you made it to this point in the video, we got to do the word of the day. The word of the day is going to be fun, because a gun has to be fun. Hey, it kind of rhymes. Fun gun. And neither of these were super fun, but that was just my experiences today. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you for joining me here in the Hot Garage. And as always, thanks for watching.